All right, guys, welcome back to the Success Equation. Today we have an awesome guest. He is super wise, super smart, and just full of knowledge. He has so much to share with us today, so just get ready. Let's hop straight into it.
Hold on, we've got something special for you. The timestamps for each question we ask Abundance are displayed right now on your screen and listed in the video description. So if you're curious about a specific topic or just want to skip ahead, feel free to check them out. Let's dive right into the magic of this episode.
So, who are you, what do you do, and what is your mission?
Thank you so much. Such a heavy question you're starting with. My name is Abondance Kalonji. Who am I? That's quite an interesting question. I'm a son, I'm a brother, and maybe I think with who am I, also like what I do, probably. I'm an academic and I'm a creative. I think that's how I'll define myself. Yeah.
So, what is your mission in life?
Mission in life, to add value. To add value.
How would you say you are adding value to the world?
By playing my part, we'll talk about playing again at some point, but by playing my part and doing my best with what I'm given, in terms of opportunities and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Okay, awesome. So you mentioned that you're an academic.
Yes.
Can you explain to us what classes you as an academic, what are you currently studying or researching? You can just go a bit in detail on that.
Cool, that could take hours, but I'll try to summarize it in a few words. So, I'm currently in the process of completing my PhD. Sounds very weird to say. I'm a scientist by profession and a microbiologist and molecular biologist. So basically, I just look at microbes under the microscope and study the genetics and DNA and protein and how they evolve. So that's what I do, and I genuinely just love studying. I really enjoy studying and discovering stuff. So, and what really makes me again an academic is that I'm also involved into the education part of it. I do lecture, I do teach and mentor student, if I may say this, at private and public institutions as well here in South Africa.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
How did you get to that point where you decided what you wanted to study?
Serendipity, I think. It was a beautiful accident, And I think I never had a plan and I never saw myself like where I am now. But I think I thought I would be a lot of things, growing up. But I just, somehow, the way I embrace every single opportunity, I gravitated towards science and I just figured out, I actually enjoy this. And yeah, let's see where it's going to take me. So yeah, I think it was a beautiful accident. I will not take credit for that. Yeah.
So, am I right to say that you're from Congo?
Definitely.
Awesome. And are you proud to be Congolese?
Very proud. Very proud.
So, how did you get to South Africa? So, how did you end up here?
Education. So, I was born and raised in Kinshasa, the capital city of DR Congo. And I think I did my primary and secondary and high school in DRC. But my parents had this crazy idea because the learning system in DRC and in most English-speaking countries is very different. Just putting it into context, a degree is like 5 years in my country. Here you get it in 3. So they figured that if I studied in English, I would actually save some time and just learn a global language that will allow me to compete with other international professionals. So that was it, and I embarked on this crazy journey. Came here, I think I was about 19. Yeah, I was 19, and I've been here since.
And did you come to South Africa alone?
Yes, I did come alone.
So how was your experience coming to South Africa alone?
Crazy. I came here alone with little to no English at all. So that was, I only knew how to say hi, I love you, and the other one I can't say it on TV. I was watching movies and music, so those were the 3 words that I actually knew and that I learned when I came here. But I think it was just the sense of adventure, and I think something crazy actually happened. actually never had a background in science when I first came here, but I decided to register in science because I did take like a lot of, in high school we do take a lot of subjects, I think about 15 or 18, so some science subjects were around there. But I remember after 3 months, I was like, nah, I can't do this. I really can't do this. And my return flight was still there. Then I remember calling my dad, I think one of those evenings, I'm just like, we tried, it's time for me to come home. And he said something that was really powerful that I'll never forget. It's like, okay, it's fine. It doesn't say much, but it's like, it's fine. Just remember, if you walk out of this, you've learned how to walk out of almost anything in life, And yeah, that was enough motivation for me to actually stay and continue to figure things out. Yeah. But my biggest challenge was the language barrier. Yeah.
And how long did it take you to learn English?
About a year. I'm still learning, but the fact that you can understand me now is reassuring. Yeah. But it took about a year to like make myself understood and yeah.
Awesome. So what other languages do you speak?
I speak French, I speak about 4 other local language, and I'm also a little bit into like Spanish. My Spanish is not that great, but I think I can survive. Yeah, but French, English, definitely.
Okay, awesome. So I remember you understand Latin?
Oh yes, I did. Yeah, I think I can read Latin. Sadly, it's a dead language. I can't speak it anymore, but I majored in Latin and philosophy in high school.
Okay, why?
I wanted to become a Catholic priest. I'm still a priest, by Jesus Christ. But yeah, I wanted to become a Catholic priest.
Okay, so obviously you've been studying for quite a while now. And I'd like to ask you, what role would you say passion plays in becoming a researcher or doing your doctorate, basically pursuing studies to that extent?
That's a very good question, actually. The first thing that came to mind is everything. Like, when you're passionate about something, it changes the way you see it. It's not like you're not going to suffer, but you know that the suffering is going to be worth it. You see, so that's because I've had to study things that I was not passionate about, like mathematics. but sometimes, like, I'll just take one for the team, just like I'm taking this one for this degree. But eventually, the overall, you must have that mindset that, you know what, this suffering is going to be worth it. Because one thing that you and I will agree on is like it's true, it sounds cliche, like nothing comes easy. It is true, right? But you just need to make sure that the suffering, bear in mind that it's going to be worth it, because it is, if you're passionate, yeah.
So, I read an interesting article that says you were the first person in the world to sequence some sort of genome. Can you explain to us how that ended up happening?
Yeah, that was an adventure on its own as well. So when I finished my undergrad studies and then I started my postgraduate study and research and all of that, I had a very interesting project. So sequencing is just the technique in which you read a sequence of DNA, because DNA is made of this nucleotide that we call, like, you see letters like A, G, C, and T. So when you take DNA, because most of the time in the lab, DNA will have a liquid form like this. When we read now those chemicals that makes DNA on from a computer, that is a sequencing. And from a sequence, you're trying to read like its full arrangement, because we're all made of those small DNA that become, genes and code. So that's sequencing, like reading that. So the way it happens is that you're going to take a species, you remove the DNA out of that species, then you send it into a facility, most of the time like a lab, where they have machines that are going to read the DNA. But once you have read that DNA, it's not like it's going to give you the DNA in the right order. I always think about it like you go into a library, they're like, it's fine, you can take this book, but we're not going to give you a book. We're going to shred it sentence by sentence, go out with it, and figure out how to put it together. So that is sequencing. So to cut the story short, I was looking for a specific yeast that produces melanin and is involved in a lot of like diseases like meningitis and all of that. And I knew that if I grew this yeast in a specific medium, we call them media, right, it was going to turn brown. And I isolated those yeast from the environment where I knew I was going to find it. And I grew them in those medium. Eventually, they produced melanin. They turned brown. I'm like, that is, I got it. But I had to ID now. Like, we have to ID the piece. So when we sent it for like the first sequencing, which is with a small portion, it's like fingerprinting. Then that's when we got another name. Like, okay, what is this name? Like, I've never heard of this name before. You know, before we knew it, we were on the path into like finding like, you know, like a new species. And then I had to sequence, like read its entire DNA because no one knew about that species. And you know, like with small organisms like bacteria and fungi, they have different compositions. So if you have a simple DNA composition like bacteria, it's like a genome, the ensemble of your genes. It's like prokaryote, I think biology 101, something like that. And as we're more complicated with like eukaryotic. So assembling a eukaryotic genome is a bit difficult, but that's the task I embark on. Yeah, and I managed to assemble that first genome. So what did we find? We found that it's one of the most part of a very resistant families of yeast, and no one has ever reported its genome. No one has ever reported that it produces even melanin. We got to publish. So it was a cool experience that, for me, just reinforced my passion for science, because I did go the extra mile for that project. So I was glad that the suffering was worth it.
And what real life practical experience does that give us?
The practical experience, I think for me, the first thing that I learned, it was adaptation, because I started the project with a different goal, and as soon as we saw that this is something else, I had to shift my entire research focus towards a different approach within weeks or months of the project. So it taught me how to adapt easily to changes. Yeah.
So obviously that has to do with microbiology, and microbiology has to do with viruses and diseases and so on. And I've heard that you have an interesting story to share with us that has to do with malaria. Would you like to tell us that?
Oh, yes. Yes, I think that's malaria and most of those other diseases. I think it's actually what sparked my attention to like the world of microbes, because DRC is a very tropical country, and we just stay on the equator, and because of that humidity and all of that, there's quite a lot of mosquitoes. It's still a nice country, but we have a lot of mosquitoes. Trust me, it's a choir where it's not like so it's like tenor, alto, soprano. Like our mosquito, they'll give you a full experience with some biting, right? But growing up, like malaria was it was a normal thing. Like just the way we get like flu, you know. I never knew like malaria was this deadly until I started studying microbiology. But I remember, I forgot how old I was. I think probably somewhere between 12 and 16. I don't know, between 10 and 15. You don't remember all the age, but just you all of a sudden you're a teenager. But somewhere there before I became like a full-grown teenager, I had like one of those terrible episodes of malaria. I think it was really bad. I think I almost thought that was it. Because I think it got to a point where I was so sick and I could feel, you always hear those stories, like, before you die, like, like you feel like this coldness. Yeah, I started feeling that. So, yeah, that was a bit tragic. I almost thought that I was going to go. And also I've had like a few friends which I grew up with, like I think one of which I can remember vividly. There's this guy we used to play soccer with and all of that. He actually died from malaria. So I think that's where I started thinking, like, what is this thing, that kills people? At first, I thought I was interested into like the symptoms, because growing up you don't have many career options. So you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, or who are you? Those type of growing. But after that, I was now intrigued by the acts. Like, no, what is malaria? What is a parasite? every campaign they talk about parasite, they talk about this. So it really sparked my attention, and I just fell in love with the world of microbes, because I was like, they are invisible yet so mighty. You know, that's something that's so, you know, like I'm always like I can't wrap my head around it. Yeah.
So going back to the whole study situation, you said it's been quite a few years that you have been studying, and something recently entered the world, and I feel like it's changed education as a whole, and that thing is artificial intelligence. So in your experience, would you say it's a good thing or a bad thing, and how would you say it has affected education?
That's a good question. So, is artificial intelligence? I don't think we can categorize it on whether it's a good or a bad thing. It depends on what you do with it. Maybe it's not the right example. Like a knife, is it a good thing or a bad thing? You know, a gun, is it a good thing or a bad thing? You see, those are weapons. In the kitchen, a knife is good. But I don't want to see a knife anywhere else besides the kitchen where it belongs, you see. So even with AI, we have to stick within those boundaries. I think it depends on what you do with it. But I think from an academic point of view, if you take advantage of it, it could, you know, help you ease your process, your learning process. But you just need to know how to use it. Yeah.
And what role do you think AI can play in the advancement of science?
Everything. We live in a time now where not just in science, not just in microbiology, but we are generating just in life more data than we can process, right? We're not lacking questions, if you think. Like we have questions and there are a lot of problems that we need to solve. But what we lack is the time and the right approach on how to solve those questions. So with the right use of AI, it can allow us to get the most out of the data that we have already generated and become more smarter about, you know, the data that we are going to generate, and on top of that, how to reframe and restructure our research questions. Yeah, but I think it applies not just to science but everything in general. Yeah.
So, what AI do you use on a daily or weekly basis, and what do you use it for?
I think nowadays on a daily basis, the OpenAI like GPT model 3.5, 4, I use it a lot. I think the first time I learned about it, I think I spent like almost 2 or 3 nights chatting to this thing like a friend. But I use that a lot to ask a lot of questions, So, but here's how I think about it. At first, when it was like, oh, this thing is really cool, it's going to do everything. But of course, as you go deeper, you learn that this thing it's quite limited, and there's a lot of like false information. Now, I think I was sharing with friends, I think yesterday, I treat it like that smart intern. You're still an intern, but you're smart. So sometimes I can ask you to do some minor tasks for me, but I still need to supervise you. And I have to be patient with that intern as well when they do give me misleading information, because you're an intern anyways. I'm not supposed to trust you. You're just a brilliant intern, so I can work with you, but I'm still the boss. So that's my new approach. Every time I open the GPT 3.5, I'm just like, you are my intern,
Okay, awesome. Do you think AI will take over people's jobs?
Oh, so if you're worried that AI is coming to take your job, don't worry. Trust me. We're not there yet. But if you don't want to use AI, you don't want to know what it is, you're just in danger. Yeah, you're in big trouble. But yeah, I don't think it's coming for our jobs. It's coming for the job of those who don't want to embark on this train. Yeah, if you don't want to learn about it, then you are in trouble. If you learn how to use it, then you should be okay. Yeah, because what we struggle the most with is asking the right question. Just in life, like we don't know how to ask the right question, and even with these new models, we're failing to ask it the right question. And the day we figured out to ask the right questions, right, then I think maybe that's where, we'll be in trouble. But think about it this way. Let's say from a software development point of view, I'm not really into that, but I know a little bit. If you want someone to build a model for you, you need to know what you want. But sometimes we don't even know what we want. That's why those professionals like, oh, you want a website, a software that can do this and this and that. Even with a house, like if I want a specific house, like my limited architectural knowledge, I'm just like, I want that thing that I saw on Pinterest, understand? But they will tell you, no, the soil and this is not going to work in this location. So that is the thing. We don't even know what we want. We don't know how to ask good questions. So there's no way this thing is gonna like take over because it has to know exactly what we want, So I feel like for a long time we will still need human input to monitor. And I understand it is quite scary to see a chat bot, to put it in its simplest form, answer some of those amazing intricate questions. But if you look deep into it, you know what I understand? It's extremely confident than it is accurate. It thrives on like super confidence, It's like that guy who's trying to scam you. It's gonna tell you like a lot of cool. Don't be impressed. Now, if you go into the detail and you really know your field, you're going to spot the limitation. So it is more confident than smart, but because it can answer fast and gives you an overload with information, that's why you are left with the impression that this thing can take over. No, it's not going to take over because it just collects a bunch of words with a specific pattern. Yeah. So we're not there yet. It is more confident than it is smart.
Okay, so I completely agree with you that AI is huge in this world. And I agree on everything that you said, but I don't think AI will take over people's jobs. I think people using AI will take over people's jobs. Would you like to elaborate more on that?
Oh, definitely. I think if you're not using AI, especially if you work in front of a phone or a computer, or if in wherever you work there's a computer somewhere and you deal with the internet, you have to learn a little bit of AI. You see, and I think there's also this new thing I've seen. There's this embarrassment thing. Like I feel like people are embarrassed. When I see someone like using like GPT, they're like embarrassed, like they're cheating in life or like they're doing something illegal. No, maybe if you using it to solve all your problem, then that's not the right approach. But if you're using it as a tool, do it, because people are using it anyway. You're going to fall behind. So there's that new stigma, like people open AI and as soon as they see you, they just close the browser like they're just looking at something illegal. That thing needs to go, because most continents and all of that, people are embracing it, and I don't think we should be punishing people for using it. Teach them how to use it properly. Yeah.
So I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of internet gurus that speak of this whole passion versus financial stability situation, where half of them are saying, just do what you love and money will come. And then the other half says, don't do what you love at first. Do something that will bring in stable income and then chase your passion. How would you say somebody can equally balance the concept of chasing their passion or sticking to their dream while being financially stable?
I don't think I can give advice, but I can talk to my younger self. That I can definitely do. I can talk to my younger self, and if there's something one can take, you can take, right? What I'll tell my younger self is, they say time, money, right, health, and opportunity, and all of that. Most of the time, you don't have everything balanced, you see. And I think if I were to meet my younger self, provided that Einstein's physics and law of relativity, whatever was true, I could go back in the past and travel across time. We have to split it into certain time frame in life. There's a certain time frame in age like range, I would say, where all your cards are like open. You see, you can afford to fail. And there's also a threshold where you can no longer afford to fail. And there's also now another layer to that, which is like, if you have now some responsibility, you have to exercise wisdom into that as well, But the biggest misconception, when they say, I think I've learned to believe, like, sometimes it's also very misleading, like, follow your dreams and follow your passion. Where is your passion going for you to follow it? You should be the lead. Understand? You should be the lead, and you can't be there and just like say that you're following your passion. So yeah, I think I'll say, put it like in your early 20s, right? I would say to myself, experiment on a lot of things. Understand? But by the time you are getting closer to like 30, start narrowing down, because you need eventually the system, the way the world works. What I'm coming to learn now is that only specialists get highly rewarded because their energy is channeled into like one specific thing. You see, all the great and globally viewed as successful people, right? They are specialists. Like when you look at soccer, Messi doesn't play tennis. It's football. You understand? Mark Zuckerberg doesn't dabble in music. It is technology and social media. Elon Musk is not trying many things. When it started, was one project at a time. And I think it's that laser focus as well. And even when it comes with passion, it's a very dangerous thing. I've come to learn with passion. I think if I had it my way, I would have been a musician. If I had it my like I've been in love with music my whole life, But you need to know the difference, like you need to be realistic about yourself. Like, where is this going? Am I really, really good at it? I'll tell myself to just cut it short. I need to focus on what I'm really good at and what I do that comes easily, because on that path I can forge and make a new one. Understand? So yeah, but I don't, it may sound controversial, but this is for me. I necessarily don't believe in like following my passion. I don't believe in that anymore. I do have dreams as well, but I don't say that I won't follow my dream or all of that. But I've heard a sermon that was really nice a long time ago. It says the danger of a dream. I am aware of the danger of my dreams as well. Yeah.
So, would you agree with me if I say, just to summarize what you said, that at the beginning, don't follow your passion, follow what you're good at?
I think I'd say that, yeah. I need to look at what I'm good at. There are certain things like I'm passionate about it, but I'm not good at it. And there are certain things I'm just naturally good at. And I think we all have that. To add on that, there's a book that I need to read. I haven't read it yet, but I'll highly recommend it. I think it's called The Unfair Advantage. Regardless of like your background and your upbringing, I've come to realize that we all have some unfair advantage. Understand? Could be the country that you're born in, could be just the way you speak, even sometimes the way you look, sometimes just the way you speak, sometimes it's just, your physique, sometimes it's just your intellect. There's something about you that is an unfair advantage. Maybe spot that and leverage on that. Yeah.
Okay, so moving into the whole study thing again, how would you recommend people study? Like, what type of tips or productivity hacks do you have? Because, like, for example, something like procrastination is a big thing. I know I struggle with it. So how would you say you beat procrastination or just do well in studying in general?
So from a practical point of view, let me do it this way. I'll tell you what is not studying. Practically. Writing down what is in front of my slides from the lecture is not studying. That is a waste of time. It's already written there. Understand? It's going to be available in your learning portal. Why are you still writing in class? You should be active into your listening. Try to write and make notes of what is not written already there. 2, I think I've said it at some point, movement with progress. Don't confuse the two. Again, if you sit for 4 hours reading, that is also not studying. Making notes is not studying, right? So those are the practical things that we do and we think we're studying. And also, you must be aware of your attention span. So what is studying now? Like, studying is not the process of storing information necessarily, but learning how to retrieve that information. That's why we're tested. In a test, we don't ask us to store information. We are asked how to retrieve the information that you stole. I'll give you a practical example. We all have a certain things that we do. Like, when you get home, you always put your bag in that specific corner. Whether it's the right place to put it at home or not, we're not going to go there. But you always have that one place where you put your bag, your wallet, or your keys, right? And the next morning, because you know where you put it, it is very easy to do it, to retrieve it. You never leave the house without it. And some of us, what we do, let's say you have an important document that you need to bring tomorrow at work or in a business meeting. If you don't want to forget it, what do? You put it next to something that you always take. You put it next to your keys. And the next day in the morning, you don't have to worry about fetching it, because when you go and fetch your key, right, you're going to find that document. The way the brain works is with neural networks and connection. And we learn by positive reinforcement. So the practical thing is going to do, we're going to try this challenge now, right? I'm going to give you 3 numbers: 8, 12, and just pick any other number.
72.
72. Cool. So just 8, 12, and 72. You could just cram those numbers, or I could add some meanings that already exist, right, to those numbers. We've got 12 months. Understand? And let's just say my grandfather is 72, and I was born on the 8th, right? The fact that I've stored this new number with next to something that already exists in my mind, at the end of this meeting, it's going to be very easy for us to fetch it. It's going to be very easy for us to fetch it. Because I'm just going to go, when was I born? How many months do we have in a year? How old is my granddad? So that is, in practicality, how we should learn. When you learn a new concept, what do? When you store it, know where you stored that information. And it's not just with numbers. You can do it with whatever subject that you're learning. Just find a common point. And I've taken it far by sometimes even just looking at things around me and store it. It's just a game that I play now, and storing information. Like, remember when I told you about DNA and sequencing? It was a new concept to you, but I painted a very nice picture of a library and the books. That's something that you won't forget. You could forget the definition of what is DNA and what is sequencing, but as soon as I say book, as soon as you think library, you're going to know, oh, he spoke about book and all of that. So that is, in practicalities, studying is the active process of storing new information and figuring out a way to retrieve it. And how do you figure it out? You store it next to something that you already know. A good example is that every time that I'm one of those people, like, when you introduce yourself and give me your name, it just disappears after Tina, right? It just goes away. But if I store it next to something that I already know, it's easy to fetch. So in practicality, it's about how much information you can retrieve, not how much you can store. And what is not studying is writing notes, rewriting what is already there, just staring at your book and just reading for 4 hours. Last but not least, when you talk about the attention span, is that I've realized that for me, I think for most people, I cannot focus for more than 20 minutes or 25 minutes. After that, I'm gone. I'm daydreaming. Understand? So what is the best way to study? There's this system, I think the Pomodoro technique and all of that. Rather create focus block. Like, I'm going to actively learn for 20 minutes, no distraction, then give myself the break that I deserve for 5 minutes. Then you repeat the cycle 3 times. The third time, give yourself a 20-minute. That's where you've liberated yourself from the urge to get distracted. And as soon as your focus gets down, or like it's lowering, you take a real break to step out of the situation and jump again, because it's about the quality of time that you spend studying than the quantity. So what I've learned is that studying, I used to spend 4 hours, right, just running in circle. But sometimes I can just do 60 minutes of very productive session. So it's quality over quantity.
And I also remembered watching this a few years ago. So there's this guy, he never forgets the face and name of a person he ever meets, even randomly in the park. And how he does this is he associates it with a feature on their face and a shape. So if he sees they have a really big nose, he would look at them as a triangle, and on the triangle, he will put the letters of their name. And so the next time he sees that person, for some reason, he can just recall it. So, using techniques like that is very good at retrieving information.
Yeah, I think that's sadly it's the one thing that we don't learn. Before you even start studying, you need to learn how to learn. I think studying is the only thing where we just jump straight into it without figuring out. Driving, you learn how to drive before you start driving. In the sense, like most things, you just learn like how to do them. Studying, you just jump like okay, and all of you in the same room, like you say. Some people are visual learner, some people they learn well by listening. You need to find your style, right? And I think something that I also wanted to mention. Okay, I'm forgetting it now. But as soon as I get that, I'll definitely talk about that as well. Yes, it's coming back. The best way to also be ready now. So when people ask, right, I've noticed because I teach. When people also ask me, how to study, they don't really want to know how to study. They want to pass the exam. They want to pass the exam. So how do you pass the exam? Let's think about swimming, right, and running. You will never see an Olympic swimmer or runner sit the whole summer read about swimming. Oh, this is the butterfly and whatever other swimming technique that exists. You never see Usain Bolt, I don't know, maybe he reads book about running, right? But you never see Usain Bolt like, what is the definition of running? What's the definition of calves? No. What are they doing all summer before the Olympics? They are running. They run to a point, or they swim to a point where they can even close their eyes and they will remember the full race. I think I watched a few videos of Lewis Hamilton. He says when they're allowed to go into the race thing, they practice to a point where he can close his eyes and see the full pathways of Formula One and all of that. But that's the last thing we do as students. You don't want to take a test. You don't even want to test yourself because it's going to be horrible. It's going to be embarrassing. It's not going to make you feel good about yourself. But that is the purpose, because when you start taking tests, you test yourself, you look at the course objective, you put it in front of you, take a blank piece of paper, start writing out. You see, I can't retrieve nothing, Then you go back, I can't retrieve nothing until you get to a point where when you get to the exam room, because you've tested yourself, you've practiced that route of going back to your brain, fetching this information over and over and over, you won't be as stressed, as overwhelmed, as you used to be, because you're used to taking tests. Put a clock, fail, again and again and again, so that when the exam is there, you've been there, you've done that, and now you can do it better. So that's a practical thing to do. If you really want to do well, start testing yourself like that. Get in a room, even if it's your own room, close everything, and put yourself there in that 3 hour, treat it like a sport, and you see it's going to change a lot.
I heard a talk that you did quite a while back, and you gave a study tip and saying that you should gamify content or gamify studying. Can you explain a bit more on that?
So I think about studying as well, because when you've been doing something your whole life, at some point you need to find a way to fall in love with it. And one of those ways was I need to treat it like a game, right? So what happens during a game? Like with a game, you don't give up when you find a challenge. It's about the mindset, actually, because when you face a challenge in a game, like I used to play, I don't know, that was GTA 5, I used to play like GTA San Andreas and all of that. When I face a challenge in GTA, like I'll try, but after that I'll come up with a strategy. The way I play GTA is not the same way I play chess, it's not the same way I play Tetris or Super Mario or FIFA. Each game requires a specific tactic, a specific approach. I'll study the game. I'll know this is how I need to hold my controller. That is also one of the ways in which you should, or we should look at studying. When you look at a module like mathematics, you cannot study it the same way you study geography, because the principles are different. With mathematics, you need to do a lot of equations. With geography, you need to look at the map and know a lot about those countries. So that is the gamifying approach. Like you treat it exactly the way it is. And if you want to make things even more interesting, start rewarding yourself. And your brain likes a reward system. Just tell yourself, I'm going to watch that series, but before I watch it, I need to finish just one section. I'm going to take myself out or order that meal or buy myself this, but before I do that, let me finish this. This is what we do with games as well, because when you finish a game, you unlock a new system. There's something that you're looking forward to. So that's how you can gamify your studying as well.
Okay, awesome. So there's this ongoing debate about motivation versus discipline. Could you explain what each one is and which one is more important at the end of the day?
I think that they're both equally important. With motivation, you could have the wrong motivation. So, that is, I think, and I know it sounds, very not productive and all of that. Like, let's say studying a course because you want to make money. I'll be honest, that's you can succeed, by the world's matrix, but that's not the right motivation. Understand? But when you start studying or doing things because you understand who you're going to become after that, it changes a lot. Motivation gets you started. Discipline keeps you going. Like you are motivated, let's just say like a medical student, right? You are motivated that you're going to become a doctor. There's going to be doctor next to your name and all of that. That is the motivation. You need now the discipline to keep going every single day. You're not, like, the biggest misconception, that's something that I've learned is all that I'm going to be motivated every day. I'm motivated like 2% out of the 98% that is left. I'm motivated only 2%. But discipline is do what you need to do when you need to do it. Stick by it. And that's what is going to separate the 1% and the 99%. We are all motivated. We are all motivated. We're not lacking motivation. That's why there's so many videos on YouTube like, you can do it. I was born. I didn't come this far to come this far. There is. Why do we listen to motivation every day? Because it's already there. But you need to build discipline. And I really like, maybe it's not my quote, but I love this quote. I think I forgot the name. I can't remember the name of the runner, but he's quite an amazing runner. Only the disciplined ones are free in life. I love that quote. Like, it's only the disciplined that are free in life, because you are dictating what you need to do when you need to do it. Only the disciplined ones are free. The non-disciplined, we are slaves. I'm slave to my sleep. I'm slave to my laziness. I'm slave for my lack of passion. I'm a slave. If I'm not doing what I need to do, then something else that is external is dictating what I need to do. Like if I said that I need to wake up at 4 a.m., right, to do something, and I don't do it, then I failed, to be disciplined, then I'm not free. because I didn't do. Because freedom is what it's doing what you need to do. So I think it's that. But on that same note as well, something else that I've been really doing, I think it also comes from, like, I think there's Matthew McConaughey, I think that is his name. All right, okay. I love his Oscar. I think he won the Oscar speech, right? Where he said that the only person that is chasing it is him in 10 years. There was like a couple of years ago, I think 2 years ago, so I found this very cute old picture of mine. Like, man, I looked cute there. I think I was like 5 or 6, right? And I was just looking at it. I haven't seen that in a long time. And you know, there's that thing like, oh, like I need to make this one proud. I mean, I need to make my younger, self proud. But at the same time, I also realized that I shouldn't rob my future self. Like, I can't rob my future self. Like, my future self depends on me now. My future self wants me to get up and get things done. My future self is expecting me to be disciplined. It's again the game thing. It is there at a certain level. I need to move to unlock that potential, because sometimes it's not about acquiring stuff, but it's about becoming. I've never played like these new games. You say like you get skin. You understand? I don't even know what it is. But to me, like the skin part is that when you grow, you crack, and then you get new skin, and then you evolve. So I can't rob. So sometimes, like, it happens every day, like where I don't have the motivation to do what I need to do, then I'm just like, I'm not being fair to my future version, And sometimes that's what keeps me going. Literally, just like, I'm not being fair to my future self. Like, I'm really not being fair to my future self. So I have to keep going. Discipline is the most difficult thing to build for a reason. But that is also what is going to separate most of us. Because we are very good at saying stuff, understand? And there are a lot of people, you're going to watch this. Like, I promise you, at the end of this, you're going to feel motivated. But that's good. We're very happy with that. But we want you to be disciplined. We doing the motivation part. That's the only thing we can do. You can learn about how to study. You can learn about, how to be productive. Like, there are many, many resources there. We're glad that you're watching this. But what we want you to do, then what is separating our platform with others, is that you need to take it from here. And we're not going to lie to you. You have to take it from there,
Okay, so this is one question that we like to ask every guest on the show. If you lost everything and all you had was 500 Rand and the experience that you currently have, how would you build your life back up?
That's very interesting. Which time? Like, is it like in a specific time frame?
Just to get going again.
Like, I've lost everything, about 500 Rand. Wow, if it's 2020, I'll put it in sanitize. I'm joking. But I think the way I'll answer this, it's not just the knowledge that I have now. Like, I'd like to have something else beside the 500 Rand, which is the connection that I've created. Probably I'll make some calls going to that, because with the knowledge that I have now, I've made certain connections where I know there's no way I can go back to the bottom. So I'll probably just get a cheap phone, make a few phone calls. Because I think that is a lesson as well that, you see, I'm glad you asked this, because you just proven to us that it's not about what you have, right? But it's about, like, when I say what you have in terms of like money, but it's about first what you can do with what you have and who you have. To me, that's what it's bringing. Like, if I lose everything, I'm with 500 Rand, the knowledge I have and the people I know, the only thing I have to do is just get a cell phone and make some calls. Yeah.
I really like that. The power of networking is so important. It's much more important than the money that you have.
Very, very important. Because money comes and goes. Yeah. The people that are wealthy, I don't know them, but I think wealth at some point it's a matter of network. You know, we need to value the network more than the net worth. There are certain people, they will never be broke in their lives just because of who they know and the relationship that they've invested in.
We like to ask every guest a hypothetical question just to tease their brain and see how they think.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you've heard of the greater good theory. It's a theory that basically states that if something benefits the masses, it's okay if it goes against a small group of people. Do you agree with that?
I think it depends on what it is. Yeah, we depend on what it is. Any specific example?
Okay, so let me give you the question for today. So the question for today is, if I gave you a little red button, and that red button, if you press it, you get 20 million rand.
Okay.
But if you do press it, a random person somewhere in the world dies. Would you press the button? Now, think of the application of your money, the advancement of your research, the impact that it can have on people. You know, how would you deal with the situation?
My mind is telling me no, but my wallet is telling me yes. It's a good one. That makes me a murderer. You know, I think I was like, oh, 20 million, I can lose mine, but automatically makes me a murderer. All right. And something that is more than money. I know it sounds like, probably I'll press the red button if no one is watching. But in real honesty, right? I think the fact that I just thought about it, that they say that it's going to make me a murderer, like, it's just going to change something. It's really going to change something. Like, yeah.
So you
Probably give me a certificate that I said no to 20 million. And I'll need at least a certificate that proves that I said no to 20 million. Maybe someone's gonna be like, oh, it's a good person. But the fact that I've already thought about it, it's going to make me a murderer. It has changed everything. Yeah.
Would that question change if I told you the person was a serial killer?
No. Yeah, no, it's not gonna, because it's not my place to judge. Yeah, it's not my place to judge. So there's justice, and yeah, it's not my place to judge. Yeah, it's a hard choice, but yeah, I'm just letting a serial killer, and I say no to 20 million. Wow.
Okay, so would you like to share a piece of motivation or a quote to the people at home for this week?
What can I tell you? Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to save you. There's no amount of content you can watch. There's no amount of books you can read that is going to change your life. It's there. You have everything you need. But it's important to get motivated, but nobody's coming to save you. Save yourself. Don't be selfish, but save yourself.
Okay, so another segment that we have on the show is where the previous guest asks the next guest a question without knowing who the guest is. So the last guest has asked you a question, and the question is, in one line, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Keep going. Yeah.
Okay, so to end off the show, we have one more question for you. What is your success equation?
My success equation. How many components should I put in that equation?
As many as you want.
As many as you want. I think I would say there are a lot of like external. First of all, acknowledge whatever you can't control. That is like the first thing I need to add to my equation. There are a lot of things like I need to acknowledge that I can't control. Be aware of that. And the second thing I'm going to add is preparedness to deal with whatever is thrown at you. Because successful people are going to deal with good and bad days and all of that. And number 3 is that taking responsibility. Make a choice and, bear the consequences, And last but not least is you have to get going. You have to be disciplined. You have to embrace suffering, knowing that suffering is going to be worth it. Yeah.
Hey, so I told you that podcast was going to be good, and boy, was it good. But, anyways, thank you guys for joining us. Next week, we have an awesome guest as well. He was the MEC of Finance, and he was in charge of the 7th largest pension fund in the world, worth over 900 billion rand. So, he's going to share some good information to help both you and me. So, stay tuned. See you there.